Oh, yes,
say it again, Kevin. Go
We're
ahead.
going to start our feature presentation on the 7 wonders of the TCC planetarium.
Thank you.
Thank you.
In 1889, the skyline of Paris changed forever. Rising higher and higher above the city below, a latticework of iron stretched towards the clouds. Built only as a temporary structure for the Great Exhibition that year, the Eiffel Tower instead became the symbol of Paris and the whole country of France. This Parisian tower immortalized the name of its designer, Gustave Eiffel, and was described as the 8th wonder of the world. In Sydney, Australia, the Harbour Bridge and the fabled Opera House nearby have also been called wonders of the world. The Sydney Harbour Bridge spans the sparkling waters below, and the Sydney Opera House rises like sails along the harbour. They combine to form an icon of Sydney and a tourist destination that symbolises Australia. The Opera House is among many must-see places for the modern traveller, joining such varied sites as the Great Wall of China, the Statue of Liberty, the Parthenon, and the Great Pyramid of Cheops. It was this structure, the Great Pyramid, which held a record as the world's tallest building for almost 4,500 years, until it was surpassed by the Eiffel Tower. 2,000 years ago, the Great Pyramid was also on another list, a list of 7 iconic, not-to-be-missed sites on the Earth, called the 7 Wonders of the World. In those days, writers and travellers believed the modern world was centred around the Mediterranean Sea, so the 7 wonders could all be found here. Still, there were all kinds of wonders scattered around the rest of the globe, but that knowledge would remain unknown for another 1,500 years. In fact, in 2007, a great controversy erupted when the public was asked to vote and choose a brand new set of 7 wonders. The government of Egypt even filed an official complaint that one of its greatest monuments was going to have to compete for its rightful place in history. Why 7 wonders? Why not 8 or 12? Well, in those times, the number 7 was a special number, a magical number. It was the number of the most special objects in the heavens that could be seen with the naked eye: the sun, the moon, and 5 planets. That's why we have 7 days of the week. They're named after that magical list of 7. We begin our journey in Egypt, where the largest and only remaining wonder can be visited. It can be found outside the modern city of Cairo on the desert plains of Giza. It's still an amazing place, but 4,500 years ago, it would have been a magnificent sight. The pyramid was built as a spectacular last resting place and celestial home for the god pharaoh Cheops. Surrounded by other temples and sanctified buildings, it was a small town in itself. It probably took over 20 years to build. Its millions of stone blocks hewn and moved by hand. Towering upwards towards the heavens 481 feet above the desert sands, it remains one of the world's greatest tourist attractions. The mysteries of its construction have spawned thousands of books and hundreds of television programs, and no doubt will continue to do so for some time to come. The Great Pyramid was already 2,000 years old when the next wonder was constructed. And the land we today call Iraq, a great civilization once flourished. Here, the crowning jewel was the legendary city of Babylon, where lush gardens were said to exist, planted in multi-level terraces in the king's palace. Gardens of stately trees and delicate flowers, irrigated by an advanced system of pumps that drew water from the nearby Euphrates River, a man-made oasis in the middle of a harsh desert. According to Greek historians, King Nebuchadnezzar built the Hanging Gardens around 600 BC as a gift for his wife, who missed her green, mountainous home. Those parts of the palace that have been excavated hint at the beauty and opulence of a long-lost civilization. They reveal a great palace faced with bricks glazed in colourful porcelain. They formed beautiful designs and patterns, and can be found today in some of the world's major museums, but no archaeological trace of the gardens has ever been found. So, in reality, the famous Hanging Gardens of Babylon may never have existed at all. From the heart of Babylon, we travel across the Mediterranean to Olympia, Greece, the city that gave its name to the Great Olympic Games. These games that began about 776 BC were held in honour of the Greek king of the gods, Zeus. One of the most visited sites in present-day Washington, D.C. is the memorial to Abraham Lincoln. Here inside this pillared monument, his massive statue sits enthroned. His stunning effigy looks remarkably lifelike, since it was sculpted in white marble from plastic casts of Lincoln's hands and face. It's believed that the style and design of the Lincoln Memorial was based on descriptions of the great statue of Zeus and his temple in Olympia. At about 40 feet high, it was twice the size of Lincoln's statue. It was made by Phidias, the famous Athenian sculptor. In the 1950s, his original workshop was discovered on the site, and this helped date the statue to 430 BC. The statue itself was plated with gold and ivory, and had the gods seated on an elaborate jeweled throne. This temple was the religious centerpiece of the original Olympic Games. It remained a great wonder for over 800 years, until it was ruined by a powerful earthquake in 426 AD. It's here that the flame for the Olympic torch is still ignited by the rays of the sun. The next three wonders were all very close together, within 150 miles of one another: the Colossus of Rhodes, the tomb of King Mausolus, and the Temple of Artemis. St. Peter's Basilica in Rome could be considered a modern wonder, a magnificent architectural icon, a place of religious worship, and an amazing treasure house of art. 500 years before the birth of Christ, St. Peter's of its day was the Temple of Artemis. Built by Croesus, king of Lydia, the temple was one of the major religious buildings of the region for the next 7 centuries. It was so massive it would have covered an American football field. This placed it among the greatest buildings ever constructed. Inside, the magnificent statue of Artemis, goddess of hunting and fertility, was an almost Egyptian mummy-like design. It was made from gold, ebony, and silver. Her carved garment was festooned with reliefs of animals and bees. Visitors were overwhelmed by the sheer beauty of the edifice that was made completely of marble. After standing for nearly 300 years, the temple was destroyed by invading Goths in AD 262. The next wonder introduced a new word to our language: mausoleum, a tomb where often wealthy or important people are interred. Just south of Ephesus was the tomb of King Mausolus of Caria. It was built between 353 and 351 BC by his widow Artemisia. 4 leading Greek artists of the period were responsible for the statues that depicted a great battle between Greek and Amazon warriors. Interestingly enough, King Mausolus is not remembered for anything significant during his rule, except for the construction of his tomb. Fragments of the tomb are on display in the British Museum in London, but little remains on the original site in Halicarnassus. It was destroyed by an earthquake sometime between the 11th and 14th centuries. On top, a pyramid was adorned by a massive statue of Mausolus himself, driving a 4-horse marble chariot. The practice of building mausoleums for famous people continues today. The most well-known is the tomb of Mao Zedong in Tiananmen Square in Beijing, China. One of the most famous statues of our time is found in New York City on Liberty Island. Lady Liberty stands 300 feet tall on her pedestal. The bronze statue depicts a woman holding a torch in her raised right hand. It's reported that French sculptor Frédéric Bertholdi's design of the Statue of Liberty was inspired by the features of this next member of the Seven Wonders. It's the Colossus of Rhodes, a single gigantic statue of the god Helios. It was about 100 feet high and made of bronze. By its own inscription, it was built to thank the gods for their deliverance from a long battle. The god is described as holding the flaming torch of freedom in his right hand, and the rays of the rising sun crown his head. Another ode to the Colossus, a great statue of Christ with outstretched arms, towers over the harbour of Rio de Janeiro. Also constructed close to the harbour on the island of Rhodes, the Colossus stood for only 56 years when a massive earthquake in 226 BC toppled the statue. An oracle in Rhodes warned against its reconstruction, so the Colossus was never rebuilt. However, for nearly 8 centuries, people travelled to the island of Rhodes just to admire its ruins. In 654 AD, when Arabian forces took over the island, they carted off about 900 camel loads of the scrap bronze. Even though the Colossus stood for a very short time, its legend endures to this day and gives it a rightful place among the Seven Wonders. We now head back to Egypt. It's here in Alexandria that we find the last of our wonders, and the only one that had a practical use. It's the world's first lighthouse, the Pharaohs of Alexandria. Its flame reflected off a giant mirror and was said to be visible more than 35 miles away. And it's almost 400 feet high. It was one of the tallest structures on Earth. In our own time, famous practical structures such as the Empire State Building in New York or the Petronas Towers in Malaysia have become icons for their countries and cities. So it was with the Pharaohs of Alexandria. Built around 280 BC, the lighthouse lasted for almost 1,500 years before tumbling into the sea in the 14th century. Recent underwater explorations have discovered some of its massive stone blocks. They're all that remain of this technological wonder, which, like the others, except the Great Pyramid, finally succumbed to the forces of nature and time. In myth, legend, and story, the 7 ancient wonders of the world will live forever. But these amazing wonders are only the beginning of our journey, for our universe is filled with marvels as well. And it's to the stars that we travel next to look at 7 different wonders, 7 natural wonders of the heavens. In recent years, thanks to a new breed of giant telescopes on Earth and in space, we're seeing the universe in unprecedented detail and majesty. We're getting a new view and a greater understanding of some old friends in the sky. Which of these should be called wonders of the universe? We've put together a list for you to consider. We begin south of the equator, looking at a typical summer night sky from Australia, South Africa, or South America. Just below the famous Southern Cross is the constellation of the Centaur. Clearly visible to the unaided eye is a fuzzy ball of light about the size of a full moon. It's called Omega Centauri. It's a huge ball of over 1 million suns, a globular cluster. It is only one of many that orbit around the centre of our own galaxy, the Milky Way. There are many puzzles associated with this spectacular star ball, including the varying ages of its stars within. In other clusters, the stars are nearly the same age. Could this be the core of a small galaxy, destroyed in a close encounter with our own more massive Milky Way? Whatever its origin, this spectacular sphere of stellar jewels deserves careful consideration. We've moved northward now to the late spring sky of Europe, Asia, and North America. In the direction of the Y-shaped constellation of Virgo is an enormous galaxy with the unromantic name M87. Just 50 million light years away, this is one of the largest known galaxies with a mass of many trillion suns. Here, data from the radio telescopes and pictures from the Hubble revealed an object about 3 billion times more massive than the Sun at the centre of the galaxy, a giant black hole. It is surrounded by a rapidly swirling accretion disk of gas and dust. A huge gas jet, thousands of light years long, shoots out from its centre. Colossal magnetic fields twist and distort the vast clouds of material. Much is consumed by the ravenous black hole, but the leftovers are ejected violently from its core. So, M87 is home to what is likely the most massive black hole yet discovered. Surely a prime contender as a wonder of the universe. We're in the winter sky of the northern hemisphere. just to the east of Orion is the constellation of Taurus, the Bull. Tucked between these two stars is a weird object that led to a revolution in our understanding of how stars live and die. The Crab Nebula looks like wreckage, and indeed, that's what it is. The wreckage of a giant star that exploded in 1054. The explosion was so bright that the Chinese observed it in broad daylight for many months. Today, after 1,000 years, the gas clouds are still expanding outwards at over 600 miles per second. For decades, astronomers were puzzled by radio noise that seemed to emanate from the centre of the cloud. In the late 1960s, an Irish astronomer discovered repeated radio pulses transmitted from the nebula. Was this some alien intelligence calling out to its distant neighbours in space? No, but what astronomers discovered was almost as amazing. It was a tiny, extremely dense and rapidly rotating remnant of the exploded star. The debris collapsed and squeezed itself into a ball of neutrons. Had the star been slightly larger, a black hole might have formed instead. This time, the collapse stopped at about 10 miles across. As it condensed, it spun faster and faster, until now it spins 30 times every second. Its telltale radio pulses put a new name in the astronomical dictionary: pulsar. We return to the southern hemisphere, this time to the constellation Carina. It's here we locate one of the largest star-forming regions visible to the unaided eye. Over 4 moon-widths across, it's a spectacular region, much larger than the well-known Orion Nebula. Beautiful though the nebula is, it contains an amazing object inside its dusty cloud. It's a star about 8,000 light years away, called Eta Carina, the most massive star that can currently be studied in any detail. 150 years ago, this star suddenly brightened to become for a short time the second brightest star in the sky. Observations from the Hubble telescope revealed that the star had 2 huge billowing clouds of glowing gas expanding far into space. They resemble an hourglass with a disk in the center. Deep inside is the star itself, shining as bright as 4 million of our suns. With gravity barely strong enough to contain its gas and radiation, the star could explode completely at any time. Complicating the equation even more, very recently scientists have discovered another smaller star orbiting the larger. Discovering the secrets of Eta Carina is one of the more pressing problems in astronomy today. The countdown clock is ticking. If we are fortunate, we may witness another titanic explosion, or even the ultimate fiery demise of this giant star. We now come to tour the most spectacular and well-known gas clouds visible in our skies, included in our list of wonders for sheer beauty alone. Both are in the direction of the constellation Orion and are easily visible all over the Earth. Here is where we find the beautiful Horsehead Nebula and the distinctive blur of its companion, the Great Nebula in Orion. This billowing cloud of cold, dark dust is a cocoon of young stars and is about 1,600 light years away. Invisible against the darkness of space, its black towering form is revealed by the brighter crimson cloud behind. It glows with the distinctive colour of hot hydrogen, the primary gas in stars. South of the Horsehead is the Orion Nebula, a vast bowl-shaped stellar nursery where young stars are being born at this very moment. This is the nearest star-forming region to Earth. The young stars reside in a dramatic dust and gas landscape of plateaus, mountains and valleys, a gaseous resemblance of the Grand Canyon. We're coming close to home now, to our own solar system, to look at our seventh wonder of the universe. It's a spectacular moon and planet system that's going to be hard to beat. At only 700 million miles from Earth, Saturn and her moons have fascinated scientists for centuries. Now, thanks to unprecedented discoveries from the Cassini spacecraft, this planetary system has proven to be more amazing than we had ever imagined. In 2006, Cassini discovered huge jets of water vapour erupting from the south polar regions of Enceladus, one of Saturn's tiny moons that is only 1/50th the size of Earth's moon. This was certainly unusual from a body composed largely of ice. It now appears that eruptions from this moon actually helped form one of Saturn's gigantic rings. The Cassini spacecraft also carried the European-built lander named Huygens that successfully photographed and touched down on the surface of Titan, Saturn's largest moon. Revealed a planet in deep freeze with organic chemistry similar to that found on Earth 4 billion years ago. On Titan, Huygens saw mountains and valleys, active volcanoes, and even rivers and lakes of liquid natural gas. No other planet yet discovered can match the spectacular beauty of Saturn's extensive ring system. The rings, vast enough to stretch from Earth to the Moon, are extremely thin, less than half a mile deep. They are mostly composed of car-sized icebergs and may have been formed by the breakup of a small icy moon. Recent observations have shed more light on how the rings change over time, how collisions between small moonlets and even with comets from outside continue to alter and even form new rings today. Saturn deservedly has a place on our list of 7 wonders. Of course, the greatest wonder of all may be this tiny blue planet where we started our journey. This planet that may indeed be unique in all the universe, but it is the only place in this vast cosmos where we know life exists. Life of such variety, complexity and intelligence that it overwhelms the imagination. Life that can explore, understand, and construct the exquisite monuments of mankind. Life that can ponder the mysteries and wonders of our planet and the universe beyond.
Very good, Kevin. Excellent.
Thank you. That was pretty cool. Get out.